Okay guys, no, sa ano naman tayo? Article 147, 148, no? Tapos right of way and then builder, no? Builder as related to lessee at saka usufructuary. Okay, so simulan natin sa Article 147, 148, no? Why is this super important? Kasi nga po, yan ang karelate talaga ng psychological incapacity. Why? No? Kasi bago po natin i-factor in yung mga wages, salaries, properties acquired during cohabitation, kailangan alamin po muna natin when will Article 147 or 148, no, apply? When will it apply? Pag 147 po, nakasulat dyan, apat, man and woman, capacitated to marry each other, they live exclusively as husband and wife, and there must be no marriage or they were under a void marriage. Okay. So doon muna po tayo sa man and woman. Kapag same-sex marriage yan, same-sex, huwag palang marriage, no? Mali-mali. Same-sex na pagsasama, wag na pong marriage, no? Para mas wide, para broader yung topic. Pag same-sex relationship, kahit walang kasal, the the property relation between them, no, shall be governed by law on co-ownership sa civil code. Hindi po family code. Kasi man and woman nga nakasulat sa Article 147. Next is nakasulat dyan, capacitated to marry each other. So ano po ang context ng Article 148 ngayon? Nakalagay po sa 148 is, this applies to cohabitation not falling under Article 147. What does that mean? Ibig sabihin ng 148, yan po, no? Kapag bigamous ang marriage or polygamous, kapag under 18, either or both parties, incestuous, no, marriage, at saka marriages contrary to public policy, yung mga marriages between first cousins, the marriage between tito and pamangkin, no? Marriage between parent-in-law, di ba? And child-in-law, no? And so on and so forth. Okay? So ano po ba yung mga marriages na void, no? Na covered ang Article 147. Eh di yung hindi apat na yan, ano-ano yun? No marriage license. Lack of authority of the solemnizing officer, marriages when there was mistake of identity, marriages that are void for not complying with, marriages that are void as provided under Article 53 of the Family Code. Ano pa? Pinaka-important, psychological incapacity. Diba? Kaya nga important itong Article 147. O ngayon, no, recap na lang tayo. Kapag voidable po ang marriage, that is susceptible of ratification. Di ba? Yan ang unang tamang effect, di ba? Ng voidable marriage. Kaya nga wag natin pagpaparehohin ang annulment of marriage at saka declaration of nullity. Kasi when you say annulment, may susceptible siya of ratification. And on top of that, ang property regime po, kapag na-annul, hindi na-nullify, kapag na-annul ang isang kasal, ang isang effect niyan, absolute community ang magiging property regime niyan. Or conjugal partnership, or complete separation of property kung merong marriage settlement executed before the celebration of the marriage. On the other hand, kapag void marriage, never magiging absolute community property, conjugal partnership, or complete separation of property yan. Diretso dito sa 147, 148. Ganun po ang style. Kaya ito, often neglected kasi malayo ng provision eh. Get ko naman. Di ba, nagsimula tayo sa Article 1. 147 na ito, pero tandaan nyo, ito ang pinaka-important sa property regime. Yang dalawa na yan. Why? Kasi mahirap, tapos magandang gawa ng tanong. Di ba? O next tayo, since alam na natin applicability, doon tayo sa hatian na. Sa 147 po, wages and salaries, walang sinabi. Basta yung hatian sa sweldo, equal. Okay? Okay tayo doon. Wala nang joint contribution, walang gano'n. Kalahati. Okay? Ngayon po, ang problem sa property acquired during cohabitation, mas technical po. Sabi po sa 147, in the absence of proof to the contrary, di ba, properties acquired during their cohabitation shall be presumed to be acquired due to their joint efforts industry wages. So in other words, equal share po ang presumption. Further, ang isa pang safeguard para sa mga para sa mga naiwan sa bahay na partner, caring, and maintaining, di ba? The household, the children in the household shall be considered as joint contribution. So, dalawa. Ngayon, i-apply po natin yung mga sinabi po na yan sa Article 147 sa Tan-Andal versus Andal. Sa kaso po na yun, yung kasing lalaki, hindi nagbigay ng pera para mabili yung properties. On top of that, hindi rin po siya nag-alaga ng bata, hindi rin inayos ang bahay. In other words, bum po siya. Okay? Bum. So, in that scenario, meron bang share yung by the way, naging void po yung marriage nila due to psychological incapacity o yung kasal nila na yon na nullify due to psychological incapacity. Yung po bang lalaki? O ayan, si husband po ba? No? Meron po ba siyang share sa properties acquired during cohabitation? The answer is no. Nothing. Kasi sabi po dyan, presumption lang naman. In the absence of proof to the contrary. Joint effort. Joint industry. Pera, same. Okay? Equal. Pero may proof to the contrary po yung babae in this case eh. She was able to prove na wala talagang contribution yung asawa niya whether in money, in industry, in efforts, or in caring for or maintaining the household and the family. Nothing. So in that case, wala pong share yung lalaki dun sa lahat ng binili nila o napunta rin nilang properties. Okay? So ngayon po, kung mapapansin nyo, dalawa yung safeguards para sa mga naiiwan sa bahay. Dalawa yung safeguards nila. Una, may presumption na may contribution kayo. Pareho, equal. Ngayon, kung sabihin ng kinakasama mo na siya lang ang nagbayad, ikaw nasa bahay ka lang, nag-alaga ka lang ng bata. Pag ganun ang dialogue, yun ang contention. What's our answer? Caring for and maintaining the family and the household shall be considered as joint contribution. So in that case, itong effort na to, mag-alaga ng bata, mag-alaga ng anak, this shall be considered as joint effort or industry. Yan. Okay? For the acquisition of that property. In other words, the stay-at-home partner will be considered as she will have or he will have an equal share over the property acquired. O ngayon, sa Article 148 po, mayroon din presumption yan. Mayroon din. Kaya lang iba po ang context. Tandaan nyo, sabi po sa Article 148, yung property acquired during cohabitation, each partner will only have a right to that property if actual joint contribution was proven. Okay? So in other words, dapat nagbigay talaga ng pera, industry, effort, yung isa sa magkasama, no? Pareho magkasama para magkaroon sila ng share. So meron din pong in the absence of proof to the contrary, dyan meron din presumption. What does that mean? Ano ba ang significance niyan? Iba po yan dito sa 147. Uulitin ko sa 147, the mere fact na naging live-in partners kayo or you were under a void marriage because of psychological incapacity. Ang presumption agad, hati kayo. Kasi joint effort nyo agad eh. Iba po sa Article 148. Both partners must first prove that they actually contributed something. Nagbigay ako ng something para mabili yung property na yan. Hindi po kasali ang pag-aalaga sa bahay. Pag-aalaga sa bahay, sa anak, hindi po kasali. O kailangan nagbigay ka talaga ng pera. Once you are able to prove that you actually gave money, exerted efforts in industry to acquire that property, now there is presumption that your contribution is equal. But if you are not able to prove that you contributed effort, industry, or money to acquire that property, you do not have any share on that property or properties acquired during your cohabitation. Okay, sabihin natin para simple. Ano ba maganda dito para mas simple? Under 18. Okay, nasal sila, 17 anyos sila pareho. 17 sila pareho. O nung 25 na sila, may biniling kotse. Nag-abot ng paano ba? Ano ba magandang proof? May biniling kotse tapos ang nakapirma lang, ayan, sa acknowledgement receipt, yung isa lang, ng lalaki. No? Tapos papatunayan ng lalaki na yun na, ako lang talaga bumili. Ano mangyayari doon sa girl? No? Wala siyang share doon. Kasi nga, you will only have a share do sa property acquired during your cohabitation if actual joint contribution was proven. If pareho silang nakapirma dun sa resibo, sabihin natin, nung kotse. Ngayon, there is presumption kasi now you can prove na may actual contribution ka pareho kayo nakapirma dun eh. See, ganyan, no? If we will apply it in real life. So ngayon, ang presumption nyo dyan is, since napatunayan ni girl, di ba? Na, nag-contribute ako, pumirma ako sa acknowledgement receipt. Oh. Di ba? Ang presumption is contribution is equal. But napatunayan muna nung una na merong actual contribution yung babae o yung lalaki. Pag napatunayan nyo na yun, o sige ngayon, half-half kayo. O sabihin natin, sabi ng lalaki, totoo nga naman, talaga kaya nga pumirma dyan sa resibo kasi meron kang binigay. Pero ang totoo niyan, ang binigay mo lang 10%. Yung 2,200,000 lang, say 1.8 sa akin, cash. So dapat 90-10 ang hatian natin dyan sa kotse na yan. Yun ang pwedeng yun ang pwedeng kontrahin yan ni ano. Yun ngayon ang pwedeng kontrahin ni lalaki na babasagin niya yung presumption that the contribution was equal. Kasi nga napatunayan ni Carl na may contribution ako eh. Pareho tayo nakapangalan dyan sa resibo eh. Di ba? Get? Talaga nagbayad ako ng something dyan. Okay? So ngayon, anong gagawin ng lalaki? Yes, nagbayad ka. Okay. Pero presumption lang yan. At totoo niyan, 90% sa akin. O di yun, hindi na equal yung contribution nyo. Magiging na siyang unequal. So, the share will not be equal anymore. It will be 90% in favor of the guy, 10% in favor of the girl. Ganon ang style. O doon tayo sa last topic. If one of the partners, no, was validly married to another person, his share shall accrue in favor of the community property or the conjugal property. So what does this mean? Tandaan niyo po, no, sa ganyang, alam niyo naman, mga kabitan yan eh. Kasi like bigamous marriage, no? Let's be honest. Ganun po magiging tanong sa atin ganun yung mga usual na tanong, no? Kabitan, sabihin natin, no? Bigamous marriage or magdadagdag pa pala ako dito, no? Lagyan dito, cohabitation, kulang pa ako ng isa. Cohabitation with a married person. Yung pala, kasi pag sinabi mong bigamous, dumalawa ng kasal, di ba? Eh, paano kung isang kasal lang, tapos may, di ba, nangabilang bahay, pero di naman sila kinasal. So, isasalin natin yun. Cohabitation with a married person. So, yun ang pang lima natin, no? Cohabitation with a married person. O, yan naman ang normal na nangyayari talaga dito. Let's be honest, guys. Yan ang usual na pinag-a-apply ng Article 148. Cohabitation with a married person. O sabihin natin, may dalawang senaryo. Unang senaryo, may binigay talaga na pera yung kabit. Okay? Pangalawang senaryo, walang binigay na pera yung kabit. How? Uh, what will be the effect of that? So, sabihin natin 50-50. O, bumili ng condo, 5 million, tig 2.5 sila. 2.5 dun sa, dun sa other woman, tapos 2.5 dun sa lalaki. Paano po mangyayari dyan? Yung 2.5 na binigay ng girl, meron talaga siyang 50% dun sa biniling property. That cannot be forfeited kasi that will be unjust enrichment. Nagbigay yung tao eh ng pera, di ba? So ngayon, yung pag sinabi yung accrued, di ba, to the community property or the conjugal property, that means yung 2.5 million na binigay ng lalaki, 50%, yun lang po ang mapupunta sa community property. Okay? So, mangyayari dyan, 50% do sa property do sa other woman. Tapos, 25% po yung legal wife at saka yung legal husband. O ngayon, doon tayo sa mas madalas nangyayari. Ano ba ginagawa dyan? Pinapangalan yung property doon sa other woman. Tapos yung lahat ng ginamit na pera doon sa legal husband nang galing. 100% fully paid for by him. What's the result? Magkakaroon po ng implied trust dyan, di ba? The other woman held, actually, yun, the other woman held this property in trust of the community property. Okay? Ganun po ang mangyayari dyan. Or we can also say na void yung donation kasi masyado nang humirap. Pwede mo sabihin donation yun eh. Di ba? Kasi the legal husband donated the property dun sa other woman niya. And that is void because unang-una walang spousal consent. Humirap na ng humirap. Di ba? Ano ang pangalawang dahilan bakit siya void? Kasi it was made between persons who are guilty of adultery or concubinage. Di ba? Pero wag na tayo dun. Sa trust na lang tayo. No? The other woman held this property in trust of the community property. So 100% of that property will accrue in favor of the community property. So ang result na 50-50 sila. 50 sa legal wife, 50 dun sa uh, husband. Okay? So move tayo to the next topic. Dito tayo sa right of way na. Guys, sa right of way, mababasa niyo po sa requisites dyan. Mababasa niyo po sa cases na requisites ang tawag dito sa apat na to. Di ba? An immovable is surrounded by another immovable. By other immovables, no, with no adequate outlet to the public highway. Yun yung first requisite. The most important requisite sa right of way, easement of right of way. Pero para po sa akin, conditions, stages yan. 2, 3, and 4 will only apply if one is met. If the first stage was met. What do I mean by that? Sabihin natin, may magkatabing lote. No? Yung isang lote, wala siyang daan. Ay, yung isang lote, hirap siya sa daan. Meron siyang outlet ngayon, palabas ng highway, kaya lang lubak-lubak. Pero kasya kotse, pero lubak-lubak na lang. On the other hand, yung katabi niyang lote, maganda yung outlet, palabas ng highway. No? Maayos, no? Maayos, bagong semento, and so on and so forth. Question. Can the first property owner, yung the owner of the first property that I mentioned, can he demand a right of way, an easement of right of way, to the neighbor? The answer is no. Sa in-underline ko na to. Because there was an adequate outlet to the public highway. So ngayon, ito, no? What does adequate outlet mean? Adequate does not mean convenient. No? Even if you are not convenient, no, with your current outlet, if you can access the public highway through that outlet, that is considered as adequate, even if even if you are having a hard time. Okay? Next. What does adequate mean? It equals no other road to use to go to the highway. Ano pa yung mga ibang mga definitions po, no, ng tawag dito, ng adequate outlet, no. In the case of Spouses Vargas versus Santa Lucia Realty. Ayan, sikat pa yung respondent sa kaso, no? What does no adequate outlet mean, okay? It means, no, totally isolated from the public highway. It means there is no other road which they could use. Yan yung nilagay ko. Another definition is, another explanation is, it precludes the existence of other roads which they could traverse. Either of the three will do. Yun po ibig sabihin yan. Okay? Hindi po convenience. Ngayon, no, ang problem ko po nung nasa law school ako, nung bar taker ako, ang ginagawa ko, ginagamit ko pang supporting legal basis yung number 4. Like, sasabihin ko, here there was already an adequate outlet in favor of Mr. B. Further, inalay ko pa itong at the point least prejudicial na to. I was wrong. Kasi, number 4 will only be available if number 1 was, as I said, met. Kung wala talagang adequate outlet, talagang box yung corner, no, box yung property na to. At saka lang po magiging available yung 2, 3, 4. So, ang sagot lang dapat doon yung first requisite lang, which is this. There was already an adequate outlet, no? Adequate outlet does not mean convenient outlet, no? If there are no adequate outlet means that, yan, there is no other road which they can use to go to the public highway. Here, there was an adequate outlet in favor of Mr. B because he can access the public highway through the dirt road, sabihin natin. So, something like that. Thus, he cannot demand a right of way in the property of Mr. A in order to access the public highway. Ganon, something like that. That's the end of the answer. Okay? O ngayon, sabihin natin, wala talagang adequate outlet. No? Wala talaga. No? Talagang, wala talaga. Andun siya. Isolated siya. Now, we check the 2, 3, and 4. Sa number 2 tayo requisite. Tandaan niyo po itong number 2 na requisite. Para sa akin, hindi po dito lumalabas yung tanong normally. Why? Magkakaroon naman ng payment of proper indemnity once nagkaroon na ng agreement sa paggawa ng right of way. Guys, kung meron na silang agreement sa right of way, paano gagawa ng bar question? Eh, wala nang issue. There's no more problem. Nagka-ayos na sila. Diba? Sabi, okay na. Sabi nung servant estate, okay, no problem. Sabi ng dominant estate, okay. Bayaran na tayo ng pera ngayon. Where is the bar question, guys? Wala, di ba? Kaya tandaan nyo, yung payment of proper indemnity, ilagay nyo yan. No? Kailangan talaga po, pag tinanong kayo ng right of way, ilagay nyo lahat ng 4 requisites na yan. 4 requisites na yan. Hindi pwedeng kulang. Kasi yung katabi nyo o yung ibang mga i-check na exams, baka nilagay nila in full. Kapag kayo ang nilagay nyo lang yung first requisite, baka sabihin hindi nyo alam. Partial points tayo. Baka magkakaroon tayo ng exposure to partial points kahit na alam naman natin yung sagot. So, tandaan nyo, pag mga may requisites na ganyan, may mga elements, make sure na as much as you can, say everything na sa listahan na yan. No? Para sure tayong full points. Okay, so number 3 tayong requisite. Nakalagay dyan is the isolation must not be due to the acts of due to the acts of the owner, possessor, or user of that dominant estate. Bigyan ko kayo ng example. Ito, real life. Sabihin natin, may magkatabing bahay, si A at saka si B. Si A, ang access niya sa highway, south, exit. Si B, ang access niya sa highway, yung north, exit. Ang ginawa ni A, kasi hindi masyadong maganda yung daan niya dun sa south exit, pinasaka niya. Later on, can this person demand from B an easement of right of way? The answer is no. Kasi kaya ka na-isolate, kaya ka nawalan ng daan papuntang public highway because of your own acts, because you closed your south exit. So you cannot demand from me an easement of right of way so you can access the north exit. You cannot. Because the isolation was due to your own acts. What's the remedy nitong owner na to? E di i-clear out mo yung binarahan mo dati, di ba? Minsan talaga maganda talaga civil law, civil code. May common sense po, no? May common sense talaga yung may pinapairal na common sense yung provisions. Aba, ikaw bumaka dyan eh. Yun ang gawa mo ng paraan ngayon. Wag mo akong istorbohin. Yung daan mo, di butasan mo ulit kung binakahan mo dati. That's your access before. Use that as your access now. Why are you getting why will you get, di ba? Why will you get? Why will you gain access from my property or, di ba? From my property to go to the highway. Diba? That is, pwedeng maging ano nga yun, susceptible to fraud. Diba? Pabangahan ko para doon ako para doon ako makapasok sa mas maganda. So in-store mo may kapitbahay mo. That should not be allowed. Kasi you already have an access before. Okay? Anyway, you get the point. Kung tayo, no, tandaan niyo po yung number 4, this will only be available once it was settled that there is no adequate outlet. Wala talagang dadaanan. And then, 4 is now available. Get? Sabihin natin, wala talagang dadaanan, wala namang kasalanan yung dominant estate. O now we go to number 4. Now we will determine where will the right of way be established. Sabi po dyan, the right of way, the claimed right of way must be established in a point least prejudicial to the servient estate or to the immovable where the right of way will be established, basically. Servient estate nga. Ngayon, pahirapan natin yung tanong. Sabihin natin, may tatlong magkakapit-bahay. No? Yung isang kapit-bahay, nasa gitna siya, si A. Ang nasa right and left niya, si B at saka si C. Kay B, para makagawa siya ng right of way doon, dadaanan niya yung bahay ni B para makalabas to the highway. Kay C naman, dadaan sa garden ni C para makalabas siya sa highway. Ngayon, mas malayo at mas hassle yung gagawing right of way kay C. Mas hassle yun. Mas malayo, mas hassle. Kay B, mas madali, mas mabilis. Okay. Where should the right of way, the claimed right of way be established? The answer is dun sa property na dadaan sa garden. Why? That was the lesser prejudicial right of way. Okay? It was more prejudicial to establish the right of way dun sa property na dadaan sa bahay. Kasi ano po sabi dito? In so far as consistent with this rule, the distance between the dominant estate and the public highway is shortest. Sabi po dyan, in so far as consistent with this rule. Ibig sabihin, bago natin i-factor in yung convenience, yung shortest route in favor of the dominant estate, before we consider that, dapat i-consider muna natin yung least prejudicial against, or to pala, against tuloy, to the servient estate. What is the least prejudicial point to them? O ngayon, so what do we mean by that? If yung least prejudicial point to the servient estate is also the shortest, most convenient point to the dominant estate, now we can establish that right of way, yung shortest in favor of the dominant estate. Okay? However, if that was the shortest point for the dominant estate, but it was more prejudicial for the servant estate, that point, no, the right of way cannot be established in that point. No, because tandaan nyo lang, tawag dito, the rights, yan. Yung parang, hindi pala the rights, the first consideration must be the hassle. Yan. We must first consider the hassle that will be inflicted on the servient estate. That's the first consideration. Okay? We need to establish the right of way, in such a way that it will cause the least hassle, least burden, no, least disturbance. Yan. Or ito nga sabi, at the point least prejudicial to the servient estate. You get the point, no? So mag-activate lang po itong last line na to, yung shortest na yan, kung na-comply muna yung number 4. Again, bago naman mag-activate yung number 4 na yan, kailangan pasado muna sa number 1. So wala talaga dapat adequate outlet. Kung sa number 1 pa lang, bagsak na tayo, you do not have to apply 2, 3, and 4 anymore. Kasi nga, kung walang adequate outlet, why would you pay proper indemnity? It's not applicable. if walang adequate outlet, paano mag-apply number 3 na isolation was not due to his own acts? There was no isolation in the first place kasi may adequate outlet ka. Diba? And number 4, why will you establish a right of way kung may adequate outlet? So number 4 will also not be applicable. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, no, sa atin na lang, no? Hindi siya actually hindi requisites ang precise word dapat dito. Stages. First stage yan. Once you comply with number 1, now we check 2, 3, and 4. You get the point. Last topic tayo for this video, no? So ito, bago natin itackle yung rights ng builder in good faith saka in bad faith, we need to compare muna ang builder, usufructuary, at saka lessee. Tandaan niyo po, the lessee and the usufructuary, they possess the they occupy the property in the concept of a possessor. In other words, they recognize the title of another person. Pag lessee, he recognize the lessor as the owner. Pag usufructuary, edi yung property owner. Pag sinabi mong builder naman, it was in the concept of an owner. The occupancy was in the concept of an owner. No? Ngayon, magkakatalo kung builder in bad faith or in good faith. Yan, depende sa awareness. Ano yung awareness na yun, di ba? A builder in good faith is a builder who is not aware, no, of the defect in his title which invalidates it. Ano pang usual example niya, no? Nagtayo sa boundary, no? Na-encroach na yung portion ng kapitbahay niya, hindi niya alam na lupa na pala ng kapitbahay niya. No? So, kung alam niya na hindi niya na lupa yun, builder in bad faith. Kung hindi niya alam, good faith. No? Something like that. Ngayon, mayroon pong, tandaan niyo itong father son, nilagay ko rito. What do I mean by that? Sabihin natin, sabi ni dalawang examples. Sabi nung tito sa pamangkin niya, pamangkin, may bakante kong lupa, magtayo ka ng bahay dyan, diyan ka magsimula ng pamilya mo. Second example, anak, may bakante tayong lupa dyan, diyan kayo magtayo ng bahay, diyan kayo magbubuo ng pamilya. Ano ang relationship nung uncle at saka nung pamangkin? Usufructuary po yun. Pahiram, basically. Pinahiram ko sa iyo ang lupa ko. Ang father-son po, what's the relationship? Builder po yun. Builder in good faith yung anak. Case law po yan. No? Actually, dapat usufructuary anak, di ba? Pinahiram lang din eh. Actually, by the way, actually na naman ako. By the way, yan pala ang ano lang. That's how we understand usufructuary in common terms. Kaya siya natatutang din madalas sa bar questions. Pahiram. Brad, pahiram ako ng kotse mo. Usufructuary yun. Wait, hindi pala. Huwag palang kotse. No, kasi more on ano yun eh. Sa komodatang pumapasok normally. Komodatang pumapasok normally. Sabihin natin, dagdagan natin yung facts. No? Ako muna aane sa lupa mo. Yan. Ako muna ang magtatayo ng business sa lupa mo ha. Magsisimula ako ng sarili ko eh. Yung mga ganyan dahil nag-usufructuary yun. Why? Kasi this person will possess that property and he will receive the fruits of that property. Ayan. Hindi lang siya pahiram pala. Pagkakakitaan ko din yung property. Yan. Okay? Pag sinabi kasing kumodaton, hiniram mo lang talaga. Credit transaction. Yan. Brad, one day, pera mo ko ng kotse, no? Magpupunta lang ako ng Baguio, babalik ko the next day. Kumodatom yun. Okay, pero yung mga ganyan, no? Pera muna ako ng kotse, no? Pera muna ako ng property natin, no? Tayo akong business. Usufructuary yun. O lessee, alam nyo na yan, renta. Okay, get nyo na yan. Renta, no? May monthly rentals na babayaran. Okay. With that being said, if the lessee, the usufructuary, the builder constructed improvements on the property, ano ang rights? Meron bang right of reimbursement? Tingnan natin dito. And the lessee in good faith, no? At the termination of the contract of lease, no? May dalawang pwedeng mangyari. First is, the lessor must pay 1/2 of the value of the improvements at the time of the termination of the lease. Magbabayad si lessor. O sabihin natin yung bahay worth 10 million nung nag-terminate na yung lease, 5 million bigay niya sa lessee. Half-half sila basically. Paano if the lessor refuses? I do not like to pay. I do not like to pay the 1/2. Masyado mahal para sa akin, di kaya ng budget ko. The lessee can remove the improvements even though it may cause damages to the principal thing. Kahit na magkaroon ng damage yung principal thing, that is fine. Okay? Bakit? Kung mapapansin niyo, kumpara natin sa usufructuary. Kasi nga usufructuary, mo kung ano siya yung ganyan mga arrangement, normally gratuitous, walang renta. Sa usufructuary po, no right to be indemnified sa usufructuary. Nakita niyo pagkakaiba dito sa isa, may babayad ka ng 1/2. Alam niyo kung bakit? Kasi sa usufructuary nga, pinahiram na sa'yo. O ngayon anak, hanggat wala ka pong pinagkakakitaan, sige, anihin mo yan. Ang konsuelo mo na lang doon sa nagpahiram sa'yo, lahat ng itatayo mo dyan, di ba? Lahat ng itatayo mo, huwag palang anak, pamangkin, pamangkin, lahat ng itatayo mo dyan, aba akin na pag binawi ko yung property. See? Nakita niyo yung common sense, di ba? Libre mo ng anak ko eh. Di ba? So, kung ano may tining mo dyan, pwede yun na lang din yung akin, di ba? Kumpara natin sa lessee, may renta eh. Di ba? May renta, nagtayo ng improvements. Aba, hindi pwedeng i-improvements lahat. Binibigyan kita ng monthly rent eh. See the difference? Pag ganyan yung inintindi, dalawa na, hindi nyo makakalimutan. Okay? Tapos, isa pang sa usufructuary, no? He can only remove the improvements if it will not cause damage to the principal thing. So, paano? Ano mangyayari sa usufructuary kapag hindi niya kayang tanggalin yung improvements without damaging the principal thing? What's the result? Di wala na. Bigyan niya na talaga yung improvements na yung kay property owner. Pero kung kaya naman niya tanggalin without ruining, damaging the principal thing, o di meron pa siyang remedy. Pero kung masisira, wala na. O ngayon, sa builder po, whether in bad faith or in good faith, whether good faith or bad faith, the owner has the choice. Siya lagi ang has the choices. May S pala, maraming choices yan eh, di ba? Has the choices. Which we will tackle sa next video natin, no? Tandaan nyo, sa builder in good faith or in bad faith, kasali po dyan yung father and son, no? Na pahiram. Diyan po, sa builder, malalaman lang natin yung rights din ng builder. Depende sa choice ni owner. Yan. Okay? Sige. Move tayo to the next video. Be good.